Hello everyone, welcome. We're just letting everyone in from the waiting room and you'll see that we have a poll up on the screen at the moment. I can see people already participating, thank you very much. We're just waiting for a few more people. We've got a big group today. We are expecting 500 people, so this is our biggest class yet. Okay, if you're just joining us, please do complete the poll that you see on the screen. Okay. Welcome everyone. A few more people have just joined us. So I can see 180 people have already completed the poll, but please do complete that poll as you join us. It'd be great to see if anybody's, it is anybody's first class. Okay. Great, I think that's everyone in from the waiting room now. I'm just going to wait a couple of moments for everyone to complete that poll. So please do complete it if you haven't already. Okay. Right, so I can see that about 22% of people, this is their first class. So welcome to everyone who's joining us for the first time. And joining us for this very special snowflake edition of our drawing geometry class. Rasha, if you just turn the next slide on for me. Brilliant. So for those of you who are new, we have a few ground rules for our online classes. We ask that you keep your camera and your microphones off for the duration. If you're having any technical problems at all, there's two moderators today as we're such a big group. So it's myself and Rasha. So please message us in the chat if you're having any technical problems or if you have any kind of problems during the class, maybe you're a bit stuck. And we're also going to be using the non-verbal feedback buttons today. So I think some people should be familiar with them, but Rasha has kindly put a slide on the screen. So these are the yes and no feedback buttons that can be found under participants. So if you haven't used them before, if you click on the participants button, which is usually at the bottom of the screen, you'll see there's a green tick and a red cross. So if we can all try clicking the green tick now, that would be really useful just so I can get an idea of how many people can use that. Great, I can see those ticks going up. So we're going to use these throughout the class. So Lisa's going to be using them just to get an idea of how everyone's getting on. So maybe to see if everyone's keeping up. So yeah, please do use them when prompted. And I think that's about it for ground rules. So as I said, we've just got the chat, so that please do messages in the chat if you have any problems and any questions about the class. We'll try and answer the questions ourselves or we'll pass them on to Lisa. And please note that Lisa will not be looking at the chat during class. So please just direct those questions to myself and to Rasha. Okay, I think I'm going to pass on to Lisa now. I think that's
great. Thank you to everyone who has answered the poll. We can see that we've got quite a few of you who have taken many of our classes, but we also have a really large portion of you that this is your very first class. So one thing that we will try to do is take it slowly, step by step, so that you can follow along. And if you get lost at any point, please do message the moderators who will be able to help you. And they will alert me if I'm going too fast or too slow. I also see that most of you have had a chance to look at the Essential Geometry Skills video that we've made as a school. This is to help you become familiar with the compasses and just have a little bit of experience with the basic constructions that we use in our very beginner free classes. I see a few of you haven't had a chance to watch along with that yet. So you'll just need to be extra alert in today's class. So, okay, just one moment. So first of all, just a wonderful welcome to everyone from all over the school, from all over the world. I just wanted to take a moment to quickly share the screen. This is gives us a quick snapshot of where several of you, this is maybe about a third of the participants today are from. And we're very glad to have such an international audience joining us today. We've got participants from parts of the world that we haven't had join our classes before, which is very exciting. So thank you so much for coming. Right. So for this class, we chose the theme of the snowflake. For those of us in the Northern Hemisphere, things are getting colder and the chances of snow seem to be going up a little bit. We haven't had any snow in London yet this year. Don't know how soon that will happen, but this is the time of year when we generally start being a little bit more aware of the beautiful geometry which falls from the sky. And in that, in this geometry are some elements that we are going to be studying in our class and constructions today. We see this beautiful grace and symmetry and balance that shows up in these snow crystals. These snowflakes embody a lot of principles of geometry that appear in the traditional crafts of cultures all around the world. And so some of the things that I will be showing you today and the patterns that we are constructing are things that that have been found around the world. I went through all of my photographs and made a selection of images that use this symmetry. The study of snowflakes has been going on for a very long time. Sarah, I believe you've got a link handy for an article in Wikipedia which talks about snow science. And when you look at that article, you'll see the names of a number of individuals from China, from Japan, from Europe, who have studied this crystal structure of snowflakes for centuries. Now, these structures are incredibly intriguing to us because they carry an essential sameness. They all have this six-foldness, and yet within this sameness, there is also this sense of infinite variety. They say that there are no two snowflakes that are the same. I don't know whose job it is to go around and verify that one by one, but we can see that there is this infinite, apparent infinite beauty and variety just in these snowflakes that we see on the screen here. We see a photograph here of a man named Wilson Bentley. He's the first person who made photographs of snowflakes. And these are some of his photographs that you see on the screen here. And in this variety that we see in the snowflake, this wonderful uniqueness from crystal to crystal, I think we can see a reflection of the incredible variety that is open to us as artists and creative people as we explore some of these principles of geometry in our different craft media and our different disciplines. In organic nature, we also see this sixness. it's particularly the spring flowers, the bulb flowers, that will have 3- and 6-fold symmetry, as opposed to the summer flowers, which tend to be more the 5s and more elaborate symmetries. But in this beautiful structure, we can see some of these basic shapes that become very essential to us as we translate these symmetries and harmonies into our own work. Okay. So in the tulip, for example, see this triangle, and those of you who are familiar with some of our other geometry classes will be very familiar with how to construct some of these shapes. But the doubling of the triangle, of course, gives us our hexagonal symmetries. When we start translating these symmetries into different material, we enter the realm of being able to bring craft into it. So this is a selection of textiles and woven basketry items that all have this 6-fold geometry to them. And this one over here with the interlocking rings, I want you to pay attention to this because this will be a motif that comes up in our drawing. These are just a collection of 6-fold ceramic and stone carved objects that I've taken photographs in museums over the years. And you can see that there is this great variety of expression that is possible, even within what the simplest of geometries. Here's some more. Ceramics and carved wood. And in these, you can also see the introduction of these curved elements. So we have the marriage of the biomorphic, the organic, with the crystalline. So if time permits today, we will be looking at some curved geometric constructions that we can draw together. So notice here how our 6-pointed star is the same that we see over here on the right. So straight lines, 6-pointed star spaced out by hexagons. When we introduce the curve to it, we still have our 6-pointed floral shape surrounded by hexagonal shapes in between. These are from Shanghai in a garden called the Yu Garden, YU. And there were lots of different geometries in the garden, but these were some of the hexagonal ones. You can see in these pierced screens, a hexagonal structure. This one made of rings. Now these curves here are all from roof tiles. And so instead of a line of the compass, you're getting the circle of clay that's thrown on the wheel. So it's bringing a more physical, 3-dimensional quality to the drawing of circles to make these really lovely designs. In the pebble mosaics on the floor, we've got the hexagonal geometries as well. Oops. These are all hexagonal motifs in the Forbidden City in China. So very simple geometries, a tessellation of hexagons. This is the same geometry that you'd see in a honeycomb. And yet, through the introduction of different media, the artistic sensibility, the slightly curved lines, you add this element of beauty and creativity. And we can see that this very simple principle, which is totally universal, it's sort of the mother of this great wealth of creativity. This here is a selection of designs that were all taken in Syria, and to cover quite a span of time. This is some pre-Islamic designs here on it's a door of a tomb. You can see that 6-petaled flower, which we will be drawing together. And then these pierced screens. Here, this is going to be another early design that we will draw as well. Carved wood, marble mosaic. Each material has its own beauty. More hexagonal designs. These are within the Mughal tradition, where we've got pierced stone screens and marble mosaic. All, again, the same kind of symmetry, that same hexagonal geometry that you would see in a snowflake or a honeycomb. I do see that someone's annotating the screen. I would appreciate it if that were set aside for the moment. In fact, I'm going to stop sharing this now. We're going to start drawing. So I'd like everyone to get ready with their paper and pencils and compasses and rulers, and we'll get ready to go. So,
Lisa, just before we start, how many different pieces of paper do you think people should have today?
Maybe 3 or 4 maximum. We are going to try and produce a template and then use tracing paper on top of it to extract the different designs. Okay, so I have here a little card that I keep on my desk when I'm working on geometry. It's a little invocation that my geometry teacher would say at the start of each class. Professor Keith Critchlow, who passed this April, would start out each of our geometry classes by reciting, "May we be guided by truth, may we have beauty revealed to us, and may it result in good." And as we draw these designs today, keep your eyes open for this incredible beauty. And consider how you might bring it into your own artworks. All right, so I see that some people are still coming into the waiting room. We're about to begin drawing now. So Sarah, I think we won't be able to take any additional latecomers at this point.
That's absolutely fine.
Okay, so I'm working on A4 paper, which I'm going to have in landscape format. And my first compass measurement will be 5 centimeters, or about 2 inches.
Lisa, if someone's using American letter size, will that be big enough?
Yes, it will, because it's a little bit wider. So the first thing that we need to start out with is our horizon line. So I'm going to put this across the middle of the page. And I'm taking care to center this just because I want to make sure my circles fit on completely. And so we'll have a 5 centimeter radius on A4 paper. I'll begin by being very careful how I place the point of my compass. So one of the key things when you are new to geometry is to be very aware that if the center of your circle is not correct, then nothing about the drawing will turn out accurate. So every circle that you draw, take time to carefully position the center. So making sure it's right on the line. And then I'm just gently leaning the compass and pulling the circle behind, and we get our circle. Now, the circle is one of these symbols that absolutely transcends culture, time, place. We see it as something that is associated with the universal, with wholeness, with the divine, with the heavens, with eternity, with wholeness. It also, if we're just approaching it on a purely mathematical level, is a shape that has a very particular property where when you keep the same radius, it divides itself in a very particular way. Now, if we look at across our horizon line here, we've got two intersections. Now, everything that we do with this construction will involve using intersections that have been produced by previous steps of the drawing. So there's at no point from here on out will I ever place the point of my compass arbitrarily. I also will always keep my compass point at exactly, will keep my radius open at exactly the same opening unless I tell you to change it. So if your compass is loose and the radius changes, we have a problem. So always go back to your first circle and just check that you're using the same radius. So I'm going to go over here to this intersection on the right. Now I'll draw my second circle. And in these two circles, we can be reminded of the two great lights in the heavens. We've got the sun and the moon, which scientifically we know they're 93 million miles apart, and yet are positioned in such a way that we're able to experience total solar eclipses. They have the same apparent size as each other. There's a little bit of variation, but they appear to be perfectly balanced for most of to the casual observer. And so we kind of have sun and moon symbols that show up even in this very early part of our drawing. So I have those two circles, same radius. I'm going to go over to this point over here on the left. Same radius again, be very careful to place the point of my compass. And what this does now is we've got two circles that should be exactly tangent at the navel of my very first circle. So this central circle could be called a mother circle, and it's got two circles that spring out of it that are tangent at the center. Now we've got these two shapes here, which are kind of an almond or a fish shape or an eye shape. This is often called a vesica shape in the West. It's got intersections at the tops and at the bottoms. So we're going to use those 4 intersections to draw 4 new circles. Be extremely careful about how I place my center. So what we have here are 6 circles around a center 7th. Could I have everybody please mark with the green tick marks when they have completed this? So those numbers are going up quite quickly. That's good. Now, while you're finishing that up, I just want to draw your attention to a few different things. Number 1 is that our original circle is divided exactly into 6 by its own radius. This is a really beautiful thing, and this design that we have right now is a motif that shows up everywhere anyone has ever picked up a compass. It just emerges naturally from the circle. It's a truly universal motif. We can see that we have the 6 petals. What we're going to do next is, like we have this horizontal line going through the tips of those 2 petals, we're going to add lines across the other petals. And as I do this, I'm letting my line cut all the way across so it extends out beyond those outer circles. Now the next thing that, well, before we move on to the next bit, I just want you to be very clear in your mind that there are 7 circles that will form the basis of all of our future pattern generation. It may be helpful to you at this stage to circle those 7 centers just so you can keep an eye on them. Especially true if you are new to geometry. So these are the 7 centers of the whole design. Now the next thing that I'd like you to look at is we've got these larger petals that extend outside that central circle. So I'm going to use the intersections from those to help me further divide my center. And as I do this, all of these lines should be going right through the very center of the drawing. So when you have this, please do mark with the green tick. Something to be aware of now is that my very first circle is now divided into 12 by these straight lines. So when I am describing which intersections to be using in the future, I'll be using the numbers on a clock face. So we have 12 o'clock at the top, 1, 2, 3, all the way around. So that 12ness is something that really runs through our systems of counting time. We've got our hours of the day, we have our months of the year, and we've got the signs of the zodiac as well. We've got 12 times 5 minutes in an hour, 12 times 5 seconds in a minute. Even the circle itself is divided into 360 degrees. which also has the 12 embedded in it. So the 12ness is something that we can see is, of course, very connected with that 6-fold division of the circle. The next thing that I want to do is we're going to add some more lines to this to help us establish a template that we'll be using to extract our drawing from. So the first thing that I would like you to do is I'm going to have you circle 6 points. So it'll be the horizontal intersections, and then these other 4, like so. And I'm going to be using these 6 intersections to help me draw 2 large triangles. And as I draw them, let me just put one line in first so you can see. That vertical line should go from that top intersection, it should tangent my central circle and come out the bottom like that. So I will finish that up with a triangle pointing to the right. And a triangle pointing to the left. So I'm going to clear the tick marks, and when you have those 2 triangles in, please do mark it. If I've drawn very accurately, you'll notice that the lines should all be going through some of these same intersections. It'll help keep it nice and accurate. Sarah, how are we doing? Do we have any questions coming in? Is everyone doing okay?
I haven't had many questions.
Okay, that's
everyone's busy drawing.
Good, good. Okay. So I can see that people are making progress steadily. Another little while, let everyone catch up.
Lisa, I think a couple of people are struggling to see the lines at the top. I'm not sure if it's a little bit dark.
Does that help?
I think that might be a bit better.
Brilliant. Actually, adjust the angle of my lamp. Now, one thing to be aware of is that this will be a perfectly symmetrical drawing. So whatever you're seeing at the bottom should be repeated at the top. So if we do run into that problem in the future, just can use what you know about one part of the drawing to transfer to another part of the drawing.
I've just got another message from someone who says it's nice to be drawing and breathing.
Yes. Yeah. I have to say I'm just a little bit out of practice. It's been a few weeks since I've been doing some online teaching, and I feel the I feel the out of practiceness. So it's good for me to breathe as well. All right. I see half of you have reached this point, so I'm going to move on to the next step. Now, the next 6 points that I'm going to be using are the 6 points that I've circled around in the center circle. So it's the 6 points at the tips of the petals. And I'm drawing lines that are parallel to the ones that I drew before. So first, and I'm extending the lines all the way out to the edge of the drawing. And I'm going to do the triangle pointing right first, followed by the triangle pointing left. So I'm going to clear the tick marks again and allow you to mark when you have that finished.
Lisa, I've had a request for you to show that again. So maybe just, we know you're repeating the process in the different points.
Yeah, okay. So I've got my central circle. It's divided into 6. We can see that we've got those petals. I'm using the points of those petals to draw a triangle pointing to the right. So you can see that one pointing to the right. If I use those 3 points. And I'm just extending those lines out so that they extend past the outer circles. Okay, and then I'll do that again with the triangle pointing left. So I've got one of those lines in, I'll add the other 2. So if you look at the drawing here, by adding all of these lines together, I've drawn what's called an isometric grid, or a grid made of triangles. So you can see that I've just got equilateral triangles everywhere, and it would be very easy for me to finish off the outer edges with more equilateral triangles. Okay, but this is all we need for now. So just let everyone indicate when they finish this. There's one final set of triangles to draw. So we're almost up to about half of you having completed that, which will be the sign to move on. Okay. So for the final triangles that we're going to be drawing, these triangles are going to be pointing up. Oops. They're pointing up and pointing down, like I've just sketched here in the corner. And we're going to be using the tips of these larger petals to help us draw those triangles. So let's do the triangle pointing up first. So I'm going to use this top one and these 2 lower ones. And as I draw this line, you'll notice that it goes through the 2 points at the edge of my central circle. So I've done 1 triangle pointing up. I'm going to use the other 3 points to do a triangle pointing down. So when you get these 2 triangles in, do indicate with the check marks. So we'll see in the next couple of steps why we were getting all of these lines. I just want to make sure everyone's here before I move on.
Lisa, would you just be able to show those points again, the ones we're connecting?
Okay. Can you see these? We've got these larger petals, and there's pointing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we are connecting every other one to get a triangle pointing up. And then we're connecting the other 3 to get a triangle pointing down, like so. Now, for those of you who've taken others of our classes, you know, this anytime we do a 6 or a 12-fold design, you're very frequently doing early steps very similar to this. And there's so many different possibilities for a design to develop at this stage. So like the snowflake, we can see that this very simple 6-fold flower design gives us uncountable possibilities for how we might develop the design. Okay, I'll just give you a couple more minutes to make sure that we get there. We're almost to 50% having reached that stage. Okay, I'm going to move on. So we are going to change our compass radius for the first time. Now, even though I started out with our first radius referring to the ruler to give us the radius length, now once we have our drawing begun, we must take our measurements from inside the drawing and from intersections that are already there. So the radius that I'm going to use, if my center of my compass is here, I want a radius that brings it up so that it touches the petal there. Okay, so I've used my dividers here to show that to you. That's going to be my new radius. So it's that intersection. Before I draw my circle, I'm just going to check in a couple of different places to make sure. Okay. So once I have that new radius, I'm going to draw 7 circles. Now the 7 circles I'm going to draw are going to be using the same centers as my first 7 circles. So I'm going to do the 6 in a ring around the center first.
Lisa, are we still using the base paper at the moment? We're not using an additional?
We're still on the base paper.
Great. And would you recommend using a different color at this point, or just still with the pencil?
We could use a different color at this point because what we have now is actually a possible final design. I mean, we've seen many possible final designs so far, but this is the first one that I want to show to you coming out of the design. So I've done my 6 centers here. I'll do the 7th in the middle.
And Lisa, sorry, would you just be able to show how we got that radius one more time?
Yes, okay.
Thank you.
So, this is the radius. So what it is, it's using one of those outer centers, and we've just reduced the radius of our original circle just enough so that it tangents the petal from that central flower. So when you've got these 7 new circles in, let me know. And then I'm going to show you some pictures of where this design appears. So you can kind of get a sense for how what we are drawing relates to things that are crafted using the hands and materials from nature. I've got about a third of you who've reached this point. Almost there. So let me share my screen. So these are some of the different ways that you could connect up points inside a hexagon. So we divided our circle into 6, and a lot of the lines that we've drawn are ones that we can see over here. Now, in the geometry of basket weaving, we can see many of those triangle shapes and interlocking triangles that we've drawn already showing up in this lovely weave. Here are some examples using the pattern that we've just drawn with these interlocking circles. So the circles are now spread apart just a little bit to leave breathing space between them. They're not tied up against each other the way they were in our first 6-petaled construction. We've just given them some gaps. So this pattern on the right is a pierced window grill from it's the Palmyra Museum in Syria. And you can see how these circles are interpreted as woven bands interlocking with each other. So one of the designs that you could do as a result of this class is to increase the width of your bands and do these interlocking rings. I think it's really quite lovely. Here it is in jewelry form. Unfortunately, I don't remember where I took that picture on the left. And here we see it in the quilts. Now, this, if we look at the outer ring, kind of the, how do I describe this? So we've got a larger circle and a smaller circle. The smaller circle is the first one that we drew that gave us those 6-fold petals, but the larger circle is the one that we've now drawn to give us these spaced rings. So that quilted design, which I think is from the American Craft Museum in New York, if I recall correctly, is very related to the drawing that we've just completed. We'll come back to looking at the one on the right. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to look at how we can use this template to generate a design that has, instead of overlapping circles, these are dodecagons, so 12-sided figures. Okay, so now we want to have tracing paper. So Sarah, if I move on, is everyone?
I think most people are here. I think a couple of people are a bit stuck with that new radius again. If you could just one more,
yeah, of course.
Your dividers. Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
So I just want to point out I've got 7 centers marked on my base drawing. That's always going to be the centers of any circles that we draw in this construction. So our first circles were that wide. Our second circles were this wide. I'm going to let you look at it while I go answer my doorbell. Excuse me. very exciting. Christmas package delivery. All right.
Oh, that's the best kind of delivery.
I know, very exciting. Okay, so I hope that new radius is clear. Okay. So I'm going to put tracing paper on top of my drawing and make sure I tape it down really well so it doesn't go anywhere.
Lisa, if you have smaller tracing paper, how much of the page needs to be covered?
Let's see. Actually, let's actually go back to our original drawing, and I'm going to pick out some elements, and that'll help answer that question visually.
Great, thank you.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark using dotted lines the hexagonal tile that if you repeat this, it can tessellate infinitely. So tessellate means to fill a surface with no gaps and no overlaps. So if you were a honeybee trying to build some comb, you might use, we would use hexagons to fill the space. And you can keep making hexagons as long as you have the wax to do it in the space. So here we go. So this hexagon is made by connecting the centers of those outer 6 circles. And as long as your tracing paper covers that with a little bit of space to spare, you'll be okay. Just really want to be sure that this isn't going to move anywhere. Okay.
Lisa, I'm sure you're about to answer this, but someone's asked why we've done it in a dotted line at the moment.
Because I want to indicate a line that you could cut on instead of just a line that would get lost among the others of drawing the pattern. So just give a little bit of a visual difference. Okay, so I'm going to use a little bit of color coding here, which will hopefully help us. Let me pick the right colors I want to do here. So what I'm looking at first is we've got this central circle, which I have here. I'm going to use some a blue pen on mine, and I'm going to circle the 12 intersections that correspond to the hours of the day. So start at 12 o'clock. All of these lines are going through this very center of the drawing. So about 12, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Right. Now these are the 12 points that we are going to use to draw our central dodecagon. Now, if you are new to geometry, you might think, oh, I can just connect up those 2 points and it'll be fine. But it's very difficult to keep your drawing accurate if you're connecting 2 points that are very close to each other and that it's kind of a shallow angle that we're doing at. So I wanted to draw your attention to the fact that you can use other points in the drawing to help you do your dodecagon more accurate. So I'm going to use this upper left hand center. I'm going to go through the 12 o'clock and the 1 o'clock point as well. So I've got 3 points on the same line. And I can just connect 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock.
Lisa, are we drawing final lines now?
Yes, and in fact, I'm going to switch to a thicker pen.
Brilliant.
Now, while I'm using that center, I can also connect 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock. Okay, so this is, it's going to be a little bit, it's going to seem a little bit odd, the way that we approach this for a moment, but just follow along. Okay, so using that upper point, and I can connect 12 o'clock and 1 o'clock. And if you want to label the hours on your circle, you're welcome to do that. And 9 and 10 o'clock. So from one point, you'll notice that I can get 2 lines. Well, there's 6 corners, and 6 times 2 is 12. So if I go around to each corner and draw 2 lines, I will be able to draw my dodecagon. So I'm going to go to this one up here, the upper right, and I can use that to connect 11 and 12. And 2 and 3 o'clock. I'm just going to keep working around the circle like that. So over here to the right. So when you finish this decagon in the center by following this method, do mark with the green tick. So over here from the right, it's going to connect 4 and 5 o'clock. And 1 and 2 o'clock. The lower right-hand corner, we'll do 6 and 7. And 3 and 4. And on the lower left, connect 6 and 5. And 8 and 9. And our final 2 lines, connect 10 and 11. And 7 and 8. Like so. Right. So I see a few of you have managed to do that. Don't worry if you haven't finished it yet, because I know we have many beginners with us. Do mark when you're finished.
Lisa, lots of people are enjoying that tip of finding that third point.
Yeah, it's really handy.
Yeah.
And as you spend more time with these patterns, you're going to notice other coincidences across the pattern. So for me, it feels very much like noticing those sorts of symmetries and coincidences in nature, where you notice a little bit of something that helps you understand how something grows or is formed over here, and then you realize that that is a principle that can transfer to another location there. So there's a lot of sort of metaphor and allegory that I find emerges as I work on these drawings. Okay, we are to about a third of you who have gotten this. I want to make sure about half of you do before I move on.
Lisa, would you just be able to point out that third point again, just for some people who didn't see it?
Yeah, what I'll do is I'm going to just, with dotted lines, I'm going to just sketch that in. Okay, now what you can see here is we've got this 90-degree angle. So if you can kind of get a sense that being able to find these points might be related to the construction of a square, but that is a topic for a more advanced class. So just a little hint there, something that's pretty nifty though. Okay, we're up to halfway. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how to get the parts of the curves that are in the corners of the design. So if I look here at the lower left-hand corner, I've got a circle, and I want you to mark the hours of the clock face again. So starting at noon, 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 8, 11, 12. And as you circle those, you'll notice that they're all coming from those initial template lines from our earlier constructions. And so this is where you can start to see why we drew those lines to help us produce our template. So I'm just going to focus on one of those circles rather than to do any more at the moment. And what we can see is we've got a hexagon, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 around that central circle, the same as we do around the central. So I'll use that same trick where I'm using the corners of the hexagon to help me get those missing lines. So there are 2 lines that I can get going from the center. So it can come that way. Now I'm only completing the part of the design that is inside the dotted line of my central tile. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4 sides of the dodecagon, 1/3 of the dodecagon. So how's everyone doing, Sarah?
I think everyone's doing well. Yeah, I haven't got too many messages.
Okay.
Which is good.
No news is good news. Okay, so what we now need to look at, and I'm suddenly noticing the time, I've been taking this quite leisurely, is we need to move on and finish the other 5 corners. So what rather than circle all of those points, I'm just going to now use my knowledge of how the circle is divided into 12 to help me get those missing points. So if you need to circle them for your own reference, please do so. But remember, with each of those rings, I can get 2 lines that come from the center, and then 2 lines that come from the corners. I'm just going to try and hurry my way carefully through this to work towards the final design. So I'm going to clear the tick marks. When you have the whole tile completed, do mark that you have those interlocking dodecagons in.
Somebody has already ticked, and I'm very impressed by their speed.
I suspect they may have done this before. Just moving to my last ring. All right, so I can see a handful of you have gotten to this stage, but this is the goal that we're going for. So I'll give you another few minutes to get here. I've got about 10% of you. Finished.
Lisa, there's a couple of people who are stuck on the points. I think side points.
All right, so one thing that we can remember from doing the very central one is that our ring is surrounded by a hexagon, right? And we're using the corners of the hexagon to get 2 of the sides. So if we can transfer our visualization of that hexagon to the corner, now one corner of the hexagon is the center of the composition. Here's another corner, here's another corner down here. So what I'm doing here is I use one corner of the hexagon, this, which is the central point of the whole composition. Let me just add some dotted lines here. So the corner helps me get those 2 sides. And over here, I get that edge. And from this corner, I get that edge. Sort of a subtle thing, but every single side of that is coming from actually those same points at the very center of our drawing. I hope that helps. A few more of you have finished, not half yet though, so I'll give it a bit more time.
Lisa, are we adding more lines to this pattern at this stage?
No, when you reach this stage, this is the final pattern.
Brilliant.
So I'm going to just briefly share my screen so that we can refer back to the example in the craft context. So this is a carved wooden door panel, which I think I took this photograph in a museum in Damascus. But what we can see here is we've got these interlocking 12-sided rings, and what it gives us is a 6-pointed star, these sort of inflated triangles, and these bow tie shapes. So the artist, when they made this design, has chosen elements of the design to decorate. They've decided that the hexagon, or the star and these little inflated hexagons all get a little bit of a floral decoration, and the bow tie shapes are all gilded. So this gives a really kind of lovely textured finish to the design. Just stop the share for just a minute so I can see how everyone's doing. Still not quite half of you. I'd like to reach that point because I have another variation that I want to show you after we look at the next bit. So, okay, almost there. Okay, I'm going to show you another example of this design. It's maybe for those of you with more experience, this will be easier to see. In this window, this is a tiny little mosque in the side streets of Multan in Pakistan. Got this window grill here where we've got interlocking 12-sided rings. But instead of finishing off the center with a 6-pointed star, they made some adaptations to the design to put a 12-pointed star in the center. But it's the same geometry. So here's our bow ties. Here's those inflated hexagons. So those of you who have had a little bit more experience will probably be able to figure this out. This design here is related to what we've done, but has some subtle tweaks to it. Here we've got some 6-fold designs interpreted in metal. The one on the left, it's in the Met Museum in the Islamic collection. I don't remember where it's from. The one on the right is one I took in Ecuador. So we can see the curved lines of the geometry just have this great beauty in themselves and give rise to more complex interactions inside them. This hexagonal design was done by one of our graduates in our program in Baku in Azerbaijan. So they're taking the 6-fold design inspired by the art and architecture of Azerbaijan, but then also really celebrating this hexagonal snowflakeness of the geometry. It's really quite lovely. These are some images made by, it's the work of a woman named Frances Chickering. She lived in Maine, and in 1864, she published this album of snowflakes. And she's the one who appears to have invented the paper snowflake. So prior to the advent of kind of popular photography, she's there watching the snow fall on her window ledge and recording the snowflakes that she sees by cutting them out of paper. So if anyone gets a copy of this Cloud Crystals album, I think they're still available out there, but there are pages and pages of her hand-cut designs in there. So what I thought we could do using this design is look at how we might use paper folding and a little bit of that, our knowledge of symmetry to help us cut our own paper version. So here's one that I cut earlier. So I'm just going to show you a little technique for how we can transfer our design here to do a paper cut version. So what we'll need next is another tiny piece of tracing paper. Let me just shade in a bit of the design. So you notice that I'm shading in 1/12 of that central hexagon. And this is the section that we're going to want to transfer to our final design. Where did I put my little pieces? There we go. So I'm putting another piece of tracing paper on top of my design. And this is now a chance to get your really soft pencil. And I'm just going to trace over the lines of the pattern itself inside that triangle. It's not much. I'm also going to trace the outline of the triangle. So what I end up with is this on a piece of paper. So to turn this into a snowflake design, I'm sure everyone's done this in school a million years ago. I'm going to fold my paper so that I am going to be able to get a 6-fold snowflake. So I've folded in my paper in half and in half again. I've used A5 paper just to make my life a little bit easier at this point. Now I want to get a very exact angle at the top. So it'll be a 30-degree angle, 1/3 of the 90 degrees. I could eyeball it, but what I'm going to do is I'm just opening my compass quite wide, striking an arc like there, and marking off. So this little leftover bit is going to be really crucial. I'll just set this aside for now. So this is gives me a 30-degree angle, which is the same as the angle up here. That's 30 degrees, 60 degrees, and 90 degrees. So in order to transfer my design to my snowflake, I flip that upside down so that the soft pencil is underneath. And I'm just going to rub it through, and it transfers the design onto the paper.
Lisa, we have a couple of questions about how you folded. Would you just quickly be able to show that again?
Yes. So I did folded it in quarters, right? So get my 90 degrees. Now what I want to be able to find is that 30-degree angle up there. So I made a large radius, so center right on the corner of the paper. And then where it put the point on the fold and just made a little mark there. So this leftover bit here gives me the size of the wedge of the snowflake that I want. Okay, so this is just a little quick demo. So I want us to draw one more final pattern using our template. So all I'm doing now to get the final design is I'm kind of cutting just to either side of those pattern lines. So you can kind of decide how thick you want this to be.
Lisa, just to let you know, we do have about 5 minutes left, but
I know I'm a little bit in a panic because I want us to do the curvy version.
yeah, if everyone doesn't mind staying for a little bit longer, we can go through another variation.
I got, so I was enjoying the slow breathing pace too much.
I'm getting a lot of messages that people don't mind staying.
I figured that tends to be the case with these classes. So what I end up with is this little bit of the design. Okay, so that's coming out of, oops, here. So we can see its relationship to that 30, 60, 90 triangle. Now, I've chosen to do this with this pattern because of that hexagonal snowflake connection. For those of you who have more geometry experience and a wider vocabulary of 6 and 12-fold designs to draw from, it would be very interesting, I think, to explore by going and looking at this little minimal triangle and seeing how just these few lines within that triangle actually contain the information for the full pattern. And as we unfold it, we get that completed design, which could then be tessellated and expanded quite a lot. So this is just something to give you a little hint about something that you could explore. Okay. So we're going to move on to the curved pattern. Don't worry if you don't finish this. This is something you can definitely explore in your own time. We're going to go back to our template, take our tracing paper off. And we're going to add another smaller circle to the template. So I'm going to switch color to make this smaller circle a little bit more obvious. Now all of the circles that we've got now, you want to consider them as construction lines. And the new size of circle that we're going to draw is a little circle that nestles inside all of these ones that we've got, these interlocking rings. So this is going to be our new radius. Okay, so the center, the very middle of our drawing, and the radius is just going to bump up against those rings. Right. Draw that circle. I'm just checking in a few places to make sure my radius is exactly right. And that is our new circle size. So I put that circle at the very center, and I'm going to put it at those 6 corners as well. And this is going to be our new template. So I need to have a piece of tracing paper that covers that. So I've cleared the tick marks. So when you've got that template drawn, please indicate.
Lisa, would you be able to show that smaller radius again very quickly?
Yes. Okay, so the thing to notice is how it fits in the very center. So the point of our compass is the very middle, and we close the radius down until we can draw a circle that just tangents those interlocking rings. Okay, so don't forget to mark when you have this finished. Okay, that number is going up really nice and quickly. All right. I'm going to mark 12 points around the outside edge. And these points are on the circumference of those little circles. And they're sort of 1/12 out past the dotted line of our hexagon tile. Okay, so these are going to become 12 new centers. I'm going to switch to my pen for the final lines. And while I'm at it, before I do anything else, I'm also on that middle ring going to mark the hours on the clock face. So I need everyone to put their eyes on the screen and see this new radius that we're getting. This new radius will go from this lower left-hand dot that I've marked to 6 p.m. on my central circle. And that allows me to draw an arc that goes from 5 to 6. Okay, so let me just show that radius again. So I've got my outer circle. I've marked a center that's 1/12 below the dotted line of the tile. And I've also marked the hours on my central ring. My radius that I'm using is from there to 6 p.m. on the central ring. So what I'm going to do now is walk around the outer part of my drawing using that same radius and those 12 points that I've marked. And I'll use them to help me get a curvy dodecagon in the center.
Lisa, I think we may have lost a few people.
Okay.
Just on the, if you can repeat the radius of the little circles again.
Okay. So the first thing to be aware of is those outer little tiny circles. Each one of those is divided into 12 already by the template. So we're going sort of one outside the dotted line of that central hexagonal tile. So it's just 1/12 outside that. Then I'm taking the radius from there to 6 p.m. on that central ring. You notice that it's also the same as the radius to 5 p.m. Really. And what this does is it enables us to get this sort of curvy, swoopy ring around the middle. So I know there's still people that need to finish this. So I'm going to continue moving forward because we are recording this and this will be posted on YouTube.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Yeah, please don't worry if you're a bit stuck. If you're really stuck, maybe just watch along at this point.
Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm at that very central circle. We can see that that circle tangents the rings in 6 places, but I'm going to mark the 6 places where it doesn't tangent. And let's see. If I go down here, I'm drawing an arc that is 1/12 of those outer rings. And in each one of these places, I'm going to be able to draw 2 arcs. So from the 6 p.m. mark, I'm drawing from where it tangents this petal up to the horizon line. Do that on both sides.
Same radius, Lisa.
Same radius. I'm not changing anything now. So I'm going to do that from the top as well. Oops, blurred it just a bit. I'll just move around to all 6 points. So we get this curvy 6-pointed star in the center. There's a 6-petaled flower, really. So I'll just give that just a moment for that to settle in. And then I'll show you the final 12 points to finish the drawing. Let me switch to a different color. I'll use green here. So the final 12 points is if I go into these corner circles, I've got 2 points there that I can use. So let's finish it up a corner at a time. And we can see that we've got this kind of curvy bow tie shape that emerges.
Lisa, is this the same radius again?
These are all exactly the same radius. So what we see is instead of getting interlocking circles or dodecagons, now we're getting interlocking sort of curvy dodecagons, so scalloped.
Those shapes are amazing.
Aren't they cool? So this is the final design that comes out of using curves instead of straight lines. And they're, for those of you with more experience, you might change the radius to make your curve steeper or shallower to get some other results, which is really quite exciting. I've got an example of this, which can be seen in craft context. Let me see if I can find that. So let me just share my screen here. Sarah, I think you have the link to this.
Yes, I do. I'll share that in the chat.
So this is from Sultan Baybar's Quran, which can be seen in the British Library collection. So here's this design in illuminated gold and lapis lazuli with a stunning calligraphy and Islami decorations. So today we've seen a number of different examples of how six-fold symmetry appears in nature. It appears in different crafts, from stone carving to wood carving to painting to textiles. These principles are universal and they're a key for exploring creativity and symmetry and proportion and beauty in our own works. So I really encourage you to explore these, have a look at, consider different ways of decorating them and interpreting them in your own work. And we look forward to seeing you posting the results online using the hashtag #geometry@home. So that is everything we have for today. Sarah, do we have any final questions? Or
so someone's just asked what the name of the piece that you just shared was. I can't remember what you just shared.
It's from Sultan Baybar's Quran. So let me put the link for that in the chat. The British Library has the whole thing scanned in really beautiful high resolution on their website. So you can explore it to your heart's content. It's really stunningly gorgeous. So do have a look at that. There's a lot of different articles on it as well.
Just getting lots of lovely messages and thank yous. So thank you everyone so much for joining us. We also have some new classes that we've posted online. So we've got our next term online now from January to I think April. So please have a look on our website and explore and see if there are any classes that take your fancy. I can see that Rasha is sharing the screen at the moment, so you can see the different courses. We've got a geometry class with Lisa, actually, the Arts and Crafts of Islamic Lands tenfold patterns. I don't know if you want to say a little word about that, Lisa.
Yes, so the book, The Arts and Crafts of the Islamic Lands, which is published by this school, well, Thames and Hudson, but is written by this school, has a number of chapters on the different groups of Islamic patterning. Let me just switch my camera over so you can see. So this is the book. So what we're doing is we're going through these chapters to not only learn the constructions that are in the book, but to understand their interrelationship, how we can use them to generate our own compositions, and some alternate constructions as well. I will be team teaching that with Tom Bree, who is a really excellent geometer. And so it's always a great deal of fun to teach with him. So if you own this book but haven't gotten around to working your way through the constructions, join us for that class.
Someone's just asked the name of the book, but you've got it on the screen there.
Yeah, oh, sorry, I just switched.
A few issues with buying the book, just in case anybody wants to buy it. I think hopefully it will be back in stock soon, but if not,
February 18th, there's a paperback edition, according to...
Brilliant. We've been waiting a long time, I think because of COVID, the delays with the stock. So yes, great. So February it will be back in stock.
Yes, which is very exciting. Okay. But there are other classes that are coming up, including a mihrab design class with Katya, not to mention a whole range of drawing and painting courses. And we are hoping very much that we'll be able to resume some level of in-person teaching in the near future. Everyone obey the lockdown rules, and hopefully we can have those restrictions lifted soon. Yeah, we appreciate all of you who have joined us for this journey over the last several months. It's been quite a significant thing for us to go from no online teaching to becoming part of an online community of drawing geometry and painting and sharing our discoveries and our love for this artwork since, I guess, was it April or May that we started our first classes?
It might have been end of April.
Yeah.
Just like a long time ago.
Yeah, so thank you so much for joining us on that journey and for joining us this wintry day.
Yeah.
So,
And Lisa, sorry, I just wanted to say a special thank you to someone. So this is Sarah's last day with us. And it's been a challenging and interesting year, and it just would not be the same without you, Sarah. So thank you so much for everything you've done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you. Thank you for all your support, especially Lisa and Rasha. And yeah, it's been a wonderful year. I'm going on to pursue my own kind of creative interest now. So you've all inspired me. But yeah, thank you everyone. Thank you for the students who sent such kind messages. And yeah, I'm going to miss everyone. Hopefully I'll come back maybe as a participant.
Absolutely.
Free classes.
All right.
All the kind messages that come in.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, we'll miss you so much, Sarah. So good luck with everything that comes next. And
thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone, for all of your work, and Rasha for holding us all together for all this. And we will see you online on Instagram and Facebook, and do post your work. So I'm seeing some people turning on cameras, holding up their work. So always good to see. So we'll let you turn on your cameras for a little while, and then we will sign off. So I've got snowflakes. Really wonderful designs.
Let me just, I have on the gallery view. We're amazing. Oh, they look great.
Fantastic. Do post them, #geometry@home.
Yep.
And we'll see you on Instagram.
Brilliant. And a few people were just asking about the video, and we will post that on YouTube soon. Just give us a few days. Just have to process it.
Wow.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.